You guys remember Taylor Lorenz, right? She worked for the New York Times and the Washington Post. She's a so-called journalist. She's a feminist, and she's anti-racist, and she's pro-lockdown. Well, recently Taylor Lorenz was on CNN, and the topic Luigi Mangione was brought up. You know, the young guy who killed United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in cold blood. Well, Taylor Lorenz says that he is a handsome revolutionary who seems like he's a morally good guy. Now we're gonna watch the clip and see how we feel about it.
There's a huge disconnect between the narratives and angles that sort of mainstream media pushes and what the American public feels. And you see that in moments like this. And I can tell you, I saw the biggest audience growth that I've ever seen, because people were like, oh, somebody, some journalist is actually speaking to the anger that we feel.
The women who gather outside court in New York.
So you're gonna see women especially that feel like, oh my God, right? Like, here's this man who's revolutionary, who's famous, who's handsome, who's young, who's smart. He's a person that seems like this morally good man, which is hard to find.
Yeah, I just realized women will literally date an assassin before they swipe right on me. That's where we are. I'm sure you wouldn't like to be compared to a Trump supporter, but some of how people cannot understand why people have sympathies for Mangione strikes me as the same as a lot of media not understanding why people support Trump.
I totally agree.
It's because a lot of people are just really, really desperate.
They want somebody to take on the system. They want somebody to tear down these barbaric establishment institutions.
Okay, thank you so much, Taylor Lorenz, for that wonderful analytical view of everything that's been happening recently. And of course I'll say this, I can understand why so many people have sympathy for Luigi Mangione. In the wake of his cold-blooded murder, he was pedestalized online and called a hero because he was a revolutionary who was going to make change within the healthcare industry. Have you guys seen any change within the healthcare industry after he killed a husband and father of multiple children? No, I don't think so. And retaliatory justice doesn't really work, does it? Because if we all went around just killing the people who we felt like were creating suffering or ruining our lives or the lives of other people, a lot of individuals would be dead. And who has the right to make the decision about who is worthy of life or death in the wake of the way that they impact other people? Not random people who just decide to create a ghost gun and kill a CEO, at least I would say, but that's not the opinion of Taylor Lorenz, of course. But we don't look to Taylor Lorenz for good opinions. And this is not the first time she said something like this about Luigi Mangione. We'll read this tweet that she decided to repost, where somebody on Twitter said he still didn't deserve to get murdered in cold blood about Brian Thompson. And Taylor Lorenz reposted a response that said, yes, he did, and it should have happened sooner. Every single person profiting off of making the decisions that led to people dying from lack of healthcare would suffer a trial and jail time, at the least, if we lived in a country with actual justice. But this is what we get. Taylor Lorenz has also said this on TMZ.
I'm speaking to the sentiment. People do want these executives dead. If you have watched,
but you said we want them dead, and I guess that's...
I mean, look, I'm gonna say I'm with the people in the sense that if you have watched a loved one die because insurance has denied them life-saving essential health care, it is natural to wish that the people who run those systems would suffer the same fate as your loved one. And millions of people across America have had this experience. So yes, am I, you know, when I say, do I wish someone dead, you know, is that advocating for them to be killed? No, of course not. But am I going to shed tears or have a lot of empathy for somebody that has facilitated the deaths of thousands of innocent Americans through intentionally denying them coverage? I am not going to, you know, weep over it. I do think that loss of life is a tragedy. I'm very against death generally, you know, as a principle. But I think, again, why do we mourn certain deaths and condone other deaths of innocent, vulnerable people?
Wow, wow, wow. I mean, it's all right there for you to hear. And again, this is not even the second time, you know, the CNN clip that I've showed you where she said something like this. She went on Piers Morgan Uncensored and said something to the effect that this brought her joy in this entire situation that happened with Brian Thompson.
Why would you be in such a celebratory mood about the execution of another human being? Aren't you supposed to be on the caring, sharing left where, you know, you believe in the sanctity of life?
I do believe in the sanctity of life. And I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately.
And I will pose to Taylor Lorenz, if you're watching, hey girl, if Brian Thompson was solely responsible or responsible at large for so many deaths within the healthcare system, did the deaths stop once Luigi Mangione took his life, allegedly? I don't think so. In fact, I don't think anything is changed. So maybe we don't make this our framework for bringing about justice or for making change, because the change has not been made, and we cannot so flippantly talk about the death of other individuals or wish death upon other individuals. And interestingly enough, they think that this is all okay within the framework of what they deem to be morally good within leftist politics and towing the line of their ideology. But if anybody on the right had a similar belief to what Taylor Lorenz just espoused, I think she'd be able to figure out why that is so wrong. But apparently, okay, there is no such thing as violence on the left. For in this CNN special, I'm going to show you a clip, they talk about violence really being attributed to far-right extremism, with nothing on the left being equivalent.
Blown away.
And while America's roots are soaked in bloodshed, violence in the country today is mostly from right-wing extremism. From Oklahoma City to Charlottesville to January 6th. There is simply no equivalent on the left.
There is simply no equivalent on the left. For a moment, I'm gonna rack my little peanut brain for a second to think if I can think of any sort of equivalent on the left. I'm pretty sure with the left, we went through 6 months of BLM riots with over $2 billion in damage. I think multiple individuals had their lives taken during the BLM riots after everything that took place with George Floyd. You have Antifa on the left and all the different violence that came from that. You have recently, which I can pull up right now because this is in the news as we speak, Governor Shapiro's mansion, the governor's mansion, set on fire. And this is what it looks like after all that. Let's go back to the beginning so you guys can see. Set on fire by an arsonist, and that is a recent example. You have all of the Tesla vandalism and violence, people who own Teslas getting attacked verbally, physically, having swastikas drawn on their car. And when liberal politicians are asked how they feel about it, here's their response.
Can you tell us what you think about what's happening with the Tesla products, the violence at the dealerships? What's your take on the situation?
Sorry, I'm a little bit late here right now.
Right, she doesn't have time to discuss the violence and vandalism that is taking place, all because people own or want to buy a specific type of car. And of course, the examples of this sort of violence and retribution can go on and on and on when it comes to the left. Our current president, Donald Trump, was almost assassinated on multiple occasions, and that was cheered on by many on the left, saying they should have been the ones to do it, or they should have given the person a second shot, or that person only had one job. We have people, even now in the year 2025, wanting and calling for the assassination of President Donald Trump.
I 100% dare you to name one thing that you hope happens in 2025.
It is endless. So to say that this sort of violence doesn't have some sort of equivalent on the left is wholly incorrect. And I'd also argue that there's probably more violence on the left. But I guess when they're talking about acts of violence, which they so easily attribute to the far right, even your silence is violence on the right. They cannot look in the mirror and look at themselves, and it's probably because they don't view their actions as violence. They view them as justified acts of revolution, I guess, which is why Taylor Lorenz in our initial clip refers to Luigi Mangione as a revolutionary. Taylor Lorenz, you could not be more wrong, and you could not be less revolutionary. And guys, those are my thoughts on Taylor Lorenz and the idea that there is no equivalent to right-wing violence on the left. And I only gave you guys a few examples. I'm sure you can give me more in the comments down below. So please do exactly that. And if you disagree with anything I said in this video, do get out, but do so respectfully. We encourage healthy debate on this channel. And if you like this video, like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single time I post a video for you guys, which is every day. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.